and blue for me and you. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. What a wonderful world.
Welcome to everyone tuning in to the Art Network podcast, episode 12. I'm pretty excited. Today we're in the Miami Ad School and we are with a very cool duo of collaborators. We have Giano Currie and we also have Lena. And our focus is really just kind of talking about all the awesome things you guys are doing together, your journey, how you've gotten to where you are. And yeah, if you want to just give everyone a little background info on who you are, Giano, and you know where you're from, what you're doing, where you are, what you got going on.
Yeah, sure. First of all, thank you for having me.
Cool.
So let me get right into it. I was born in Paramaribo, Suriname. Suriname is a little country off the coast of South America. We speak Dutch. And it's considered to be the land of rainforest. So you can say I'm pretty familiar with the interior, with the rainforest. I grew up there.
It's a coastal country, right? It's on the
It's
ocean?
coastal. We border with the North Atlantic, but we are more inland.
Okay.
And we have just a beautiful interior of rainforest. And, that's my first home always. And I'm going back this year to have my first art show as well.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. So
yeah, we'll get into that. But for the last 28 years of my life, I've been heavily invested in the arts, specifically photography and videography. I've done a little bit of
the lights, we got it, we're good.
I've done a little. I've done a little bit of everything. I think it's really important to kind of dabble in a little bit of everything. I've been in the marketing space. I've been in the startup space. I've been in the event space. I've even interviewed as well too.
All these things influence a little bit.
Yeah, like they've made me a better person, but the most important, they've made me realize, what it is I'm supposed to do. So I did those things, and what really used to happen to me is that I would really be committed to something and then, just gradually grow out of it, and not be interested anymore. So, it kind of all brought me back 360. One of the things that, that would be good to set the stage with, I'm very heavily influenced by the Renaissance. The Renaissance that we see in history books, because I believe we live in a modern Renaissance today, and we do not even know that. And I'll get into it a little bit later, why I think that, but I think it's a beautiful time to be alive, and because of that, we need to make beautiful things, and that's what I set out to do, and make people aware that it's a very special time we're living in, that people are going to talk about for centuries.
Yeah, with technology, different arts,
exactly.
everything. We were talking about that. And so with your visual arts and what you're doing now, we also have our guest Lina here.
Yes.
Do you want to real quick talk about her, and then we can introduce you in a second? So how do you know her? What are you guys doing?
I would love to. I'll start from the top. So, and then this is actually where it happened for me too at the same time. I go to the Miami Ad School, or I went to the Miami Ad School, and a photography class. I had to take a photography class, and this is the introduction to Lena. And I had a photography class that I had to take. I was already a photographer, so a lot of people told me, do not take that class because you don't need it. You already have the skills for it. So I'm like, can I cuss out? Can I cuss? So I'm
Yeah,
like,
no,
fuck
so
that.
there you
So I'm like, fuck that. I've never taken a photography class in my life. You know, I've done it on my own, but I was always curious. Like it was a little self-doubt
like the
that I was never
basics?
good enough. Exactly.
Like just things that you
Foundational.
yeah.
little things that I couldn't talk about because
You had the
I didn't
talent,
know.
the skill, the passion for it, but those little 101s maybe.
Exactly. Like, for instance, like I was given a test. If I was given a test, how, what to call what,
Mhm.
I wouldn't know. But like, shit, like tell me to do something, to edit something, and I could do it. So that's why I took the class. So I took the class. I was introduced to a bunch of different techniques that I didn't know about before. So it was great. It was like, for me, it was a second chance to really go deeper into what I was already doing. So the final project was nude photography. Not all the way nude, it didn't have to be that, but just showing some skin, moody. And the average for that, everyone used to do it in black and white.
Okay.
And I did not, I am not one to go with the rest of the fishes. I always, the first thing I think about when having to come up with something is what hasn't been done before. Like I always turn my head into the other direction. And I've done that, ever since, I started dabbling in the creative industry. So I'm like, fuck that, I'm gonna use something else. So I discovered red lighting, very primitive red lighting. And, with Lina,
Was she part of your final project?
yes.
Yeah.
So
I was
Were
the
you
final
in the
project.
class?
No, so I don't. I'm Lena. I don't. I've never been to art school. I actually went to FIU and studied communications with a background in psychology. So the artistic space was not my my home base, to say the least. And Giano and I met here because he got the ask for that school project. It had to be nude art.
Mm-hmm.
And it was actually my ex-boyfriend who showed me a text message like, hey, I have, it was through a mutual friend. And he's like, oh, do you know any girls who are willing to be naked on camera, pretty much?
Okay, so your
Oh, he asked you? Like, if you knew girls.
Frank sent Martin the text message, and then Martin asked me.
But he didn't.
He just said no.
asked you for girlfriends.
No,
not
no.
for you.
No. He showed me this message from Frank, and Martin was
Oh,
just like, "Hey, is this
asking
you?"
him if he-
Yeah,
okay.
a mutual friend says, "Hey, do you know any girls who can, are willing to be naked on camera?" My ex-boyfriend shows me the phone, and he's just like, "Hey, is this you?" And I was just like, "Yeah, I don't see why not. Are you pretty much are you down?" I was like, "Yeah, I mean, I'd done." Long story short, I'd had really long hair, hair past my ass for years. And I used to say to my hairdresser, I was like, hey, if I want to cut my hair, are we going to break up? How serious is this? He's like, no, if you want to cut your hair, I would fully do it. But I think that you should do a really sexy photo shoot before you do it.
With your long hair.
With my long hair. He's like, look, the reality is you're never going to look this good with that hair again. So it's like
He hit it to you real blunt.
but he was honest, and I appreciated him for that because it's true. I was never gonna be 21 with this super long hair. You don't get to look like you're 21 when you're 40. This just doesn't happen. So I was just like, deal. And it was with a friend of mine, Amanda Velasco. She's in the marketing space as well. She does marketyour.com. It's a really cool creative agency. And she said, I'll do your photography. And I wasn't fully naked. I was naked for most of them. But then there was other ones where I did just sexy, some lingerie, these model beads that I've been wearing for 2 years were in the picture, different things like this. And that was my first taste of nude photography. That's when I realized that I was comfortable on a camera naked. And when nude. And when I got that, when Martin asked me hey, is this you? I was just like, well, I've done it before. I'm not a professional. So if he's not looking for a pro,
so
then
you already had done some experience.
I had a very a little experience with it, and
cool.
I just realized I was comfortable with it, and that was, we met here, and we
How
produced
long
this
ago
work.
did this project happen?
It's a year ago, exactly, this week.
And the collaboration between you two, it's grown, and you guys have made a lot of content and.
Yeah, so it all started with that shoot. I was very nervous that first shoot. I had never done a nude before. I was lucky to have gotten a great muse for that through a mutual friend, as Lena mentioned. So I was super nervous. I even called up my friend who was a photographer before, like, yo, you got any tips? He gave me some great advice, things to do, things not to do. But the main thing is to
For a muse photo shoot,
Yeah.
specifically. What
like
it was.
a nude photo shoot, and I use the word nude because nude is more of an artistic way of saying naked.
As we're naked's like a timid kind of.
Naked is
with
like,
Yeah.
oh my
No,
god.
it's like
Nude
she's
is
naked.
like
Nude is
like
art.
Okay.
Nude is the same thing when I say muse versus when we say muse versus
nude
model.
is posing for art. Nude is posing for art. Naked is, oh, I just saw that guy butt naked out of the shower. Coming out of the shower. So those are kind of the tips that he gave me. But the main thing was to put your model at ease. So we did the photo shoot, and that's where it all started. And a little bit after that, I called Lina up one day because I was just really feeling the art. I remember me coming home, plugging in my memory card, and looking at the footage, and there was one piece that basically changed my life. It might be hard to explain, but I stared at that picture for 30 minutes because I could just see like a future. I could see a future in that image, and I called in my roommate too. I asked him for validation. He gave me the validation. He's my yes man, by the way. Like, like his eyes
the
are
hype guy.
His eyes are my eyes, like, but not so close to the material. And that became my first print. I'm like, fuck this. I printed it out. I printed it out big to a big size. And that's where it all started. And after that, I reached out to Lena. I'm like, hey, Lena, I'm willing to give you a cut. I want you to be happy, but I want you to be part of this, because she understood it. She was giving me the right things.
We're pretty much on the
So-
same page from the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we'll get back on the collab, because one thing is with a lot of the listeners who are also like creatives, and whether it's videography, photography, art, whatever their creative field is, the power of collaboration with businesses, with people, with different types of like art niched things. Collaborating is so important to growing and marketing
The community.
yeah, and that's one of the things that we're also doing with the podcast and everything we're doing, is just how do you connect artists. But the journey of how you kind of like took the photography class, had the final project, that it was a nude final. Before, you mentioned that when you were a kid, you had been drawing like nudes, and then something happened. You want to tell a little bit about that story, and like how your parents supported you as a child?
Yeah,
also?
sure.
And then I think that's ironic, well, not ironic because it makes sense, but into what you're doing now, because it's
like a full circle.
essentially the same thing, but just in another form of medium, and 20 odd some years later.
Yeah.
So what was that? You were in Suriname, you're like a young kid, what was going on?
Yeah, so not much was going on back then, but and this is what I realized later, like when I was actually doing nude photography, getting into galleries, it struck me because I had forgotten about it. So what happened was, when I was a kid, I was around 6 or 7 years old. I was fairly good at drawing. I had a little sketchbook. And one day I come home from school, and you had my parents sitting there waiting on me, and they held up my sketchbook, and I'm like, all right, so what's the problem? And they opened up to a page where I was drawing nude women, especially the curves, and like, I was
hips,
just
the boob, the butt.
yeah, the breast, just the curves of a woman's body. I think I had seen it somewhere, and I used to sketch a lot back in the day. I used to be a lot in my head. At first my parents were shocked. So they thought I was drawing porno or pornography, but, for me it wasn't like that, because I wasn't even thinking about it.
Is it like a heavy Catholic community, or what's the...
I was raised Roman Catholic.
Okay.
I've been through it all. I've taken a lot of the most important thing is that you'll never get let down. It will always work out in the end. That's the one of the most important things that I've learned from the Catholic religion, is that it will always work out, and that's part of the secret too. So I wouldn't say I'm heavy Catholic, but I tend to take a little bit from every religion. I meditate. Spiritual. I meditate in the morning. But I tend to take a little bit from every religion. But the most important thing, I believe, is that whatever has created us, we're much as part of this earth as it is in us. So like, we've been given this by X amount of like power, but we've been given a brain, and like, nobody's gonna tell me I'm not supposed to use that brain. And I respect everyone that gives their opinion, what they think, because we've been given this. Everything you see around you started in here. And like, a girl asked me once, like, oh, like, why don't you train, why don't you exercise more? And I thought about it, and I responded, like, I'd rather train my mind than my body, because this is for me, this is the most important thing that I have, is the ability to think and to create, because everything we see around us started in the mind.
Yeah, but you're lucky because you have like a good metabolism, and you're pretty active, and
I do take care of my body. My body is my first best friend. Like, it makes me feel alive.
It's the thing that carries around the mind.
It's still a machine that needs training.
Yeah, it's the machine, but the mind needs to be steady. But to come back,
but yes, like, if you're just pumping iron all day and you're just not doing anything with your mind, I think that's what the point you're trying to get at.
Yeah,
right?
I do respect people. I'm not judging anyone, but for me personally, the mind is really important to me. But to come back to the kid's story,
so they punished you in a good way, right?
Yeah. So they were about to punish me, but then they looked at it closer, and they figured out, oh, this guy's too young. Like, he can't be into porno right now, or at least we don't hope to. So
there's no internet back then.
Yeah, so they put me in art school.
Today you'd be like, what were you looking at, man?
Let me look at the history. But yeah, so they put me in art school, which I really appreciated. Maybe not at the time, but they put me in art school, and that's where I really expanded on drawing, and that was my first taste of the arts. And it all started with drawing nude women, and it's funny to see how it turned around 360. Sometimes you start off with something, you make this long journey of discovery, and to really be sure that you don't like all those other things. And it brought me back to nude photography. And I won't say I'll stick all my life to nude photography, but that is my biggest weapon, or that's my superpower, basically. So, that's how it all started. It started from a young age, for sure.
Yeah, and so that's very fortunate you had that good influence and experience, and also that you can kind of like recall on that moment.
Yeah.
I think that's where we differ. Like, I was just reflecting on how art came into my life, and like my differences growing up versus Giano's. So I do come also from a Roman Catholic background. My dad had me do the confirmation and like the whole nine, right? But I remember being 14 years old and saying to my dad, like, Dad, this is wrong. Like, I don't believe in this faith. Like, this is not a faith I just practice. I respect it, but there's no reason for me to like come before God and like be accepted into his house amongst these peers that really believe in this faith, because I don't. Like, I know it's not because I'm lazy and I don't want to go to church, or like I just actually don't believe in this faith. You just saw through it. I just saw through it. It wasn't something that like really sat well with me. He's like, okay, fine. Like, what would you say? Like, what would you have yourself be? Like, to practice a religion? I said, I would be a Buddhist. And I was 14. And he said, you don't know what you're talking about. And I was like, okay. And forward now, I'm 24 years old almost, and I am a practicing Buddhist. And it found my life in a very like, I would say like a very cosmic, magical way. And Giano and I both share the spirituality aspect of our lives. He's not a practicing Buddhist, but we believe in similar things where like we are a part of nature, nature is a part of us, which is why I choose to be naked on camera. I'm most comfortable in my own skin. And I'll build on that in a second, but as a kid, I remember I would write. That was my first art. Like, that's how I fell in love with anything creative. I would write. And I remember my dad found my journal one day, and we were actually coming back from CCD classes, like the church classes. And he said, I found your journal. I said, okay. I said, you're not supposed to read that. Like, that's mine. Like, those are my personal thoughts.
You're like, that gets thrown out of court. Like,
yeah, like, exactly. Like, that gets thrown out of court.
It doesn't matter what it says.
But so I'm Colombian, right? So I come from, like, a heavily Latin American background. And my dad is definitely true to the Latin American nature in his beautiful man. Dad raised us on his own, and dad's my best friend. But he's got his macho character, you know, it's just part of the culture, it's part of the scene. And he said, if there's anything that you think and you don't feel comfortable saying out loud, well, then you can't write it down. So my dad took away my power to write.
Thought police?
Right. Like, and thinking about it now as an adult, I don't bash him for it. I've found peace in it because imagine being a man with two beautiful daughters that are intelligent and confident and just like these like very we weren't super rambunctious, but we were definitely more on like the adventurous, rebellious side. Like we definitely had our own thought and our own way of being. So imagine being a man with these two girls on your own, raising them alone. And like, how do you control that? Like, how do you control everything that's out there that could possibly go wrong, right? You can't, exactly, you can't. And he knew that, but he just kind of ran this story in his head where like, I can imagine being a parent is like super scary. Like, how do I protect them? How do I control this? And that was one of his ways of doing it. So he took away my power to write. He's like, you can't write this. Like, if you can't share it with me, you can't write it down. I was just like, what? So I would actually go underneath my bed, and the beds back then had, I guess like webbing or like netting right below the wood. And I would dig holes in it, and then it had like stuffing in it. And I would hide my journals in there. I'd hide like journals or like notes or like, I'd try to figure that out. And I didn't like, that didn't play into my creative space until probably this year. Like, I didn't really have that realization, like, wow, my creative ability was really limited for a while, until I got punished one day. He grounded me for doing something stupid in school, and he said, you have to write an essay every single day, and it has to be 1,000 words, and I'm going to give you a new topic. So it went from, if you like not writing at all, to here, like, you have to do this. And that was his punishment, because he was so tired of grounding me. Like, take away the TV, take away the phone. He's like, what do I do now? Like, what can I come up with that's going to, like, nail this in? And that's when I got back my ability to write. And even though it was a topic that he would give me, it was a way for me to find my voice again. And it was a way for me to tap into that creativity. So we differ there. And even to this day, for a while, like probably like half a year, I didn't talk to my dad about my artwork. My sister, who is older than I am, criticized it a little bit. She just kind of didn't get it. My sister is not as comfortable being nude as I am. We're just different women. The core of us is very similar, and we love each other a lot, but we're just different. So she would like see my posts on Instagram, and I didn't care. Like, I wasn't hiding my Instagram page from my family, and she would just like throw out little comments when we'd be, you know, with friends or her husband and things, and just kind of like
jabs, yeah,
just like these little jabs, and I would just kind of laugh them off, and I was just like, this is what I do. Like, this is what I like. But I'd never talk to my dad about it. Like, I didn't say like, hey, this is what I'm doing. I went to dinner one day, and I said, hey, this is what I'm doing, and I'm proud of it.
You were coming out of your creative closet.
I literally, like, came out of the creative closet. That's exactly what it was. I grabbed the phone, and I said, like, hey, this is it. Like, this is me. I was like, you know, I'm naked on camera. And I was like, I don't know if you're... I said it that way so that it would... I wanted it to be harsh. I wanted him to hear it harshly.
Yeah, you want to come out with a punch.
I wanted to come out with a bang, and I wanted him to hear it harshly. That way, when he saw it, he realized, like, he could create his own opinion. Like, actually, this is art. And he accepted it. And he's the guy that's just kind of like... sometimes he wants to be my manager. He's like, are they paying you enough? Like, are you making enough money? Like, are you being valued? I'm just like, Dad, it's not about that. Like, this is different.
So how do you two work together now in terms of the creative process throughout, like, let's
lots
say
of talking
next week, for example? Like, how do you guys work together?
Even better. Well, I mean, this Sunday we have a photo shoot.
So we started doing the first shoots which were you know, I would say full nude submerged in shadows. That's the best way to describe it, you know, without showing
Black, yeah.
So
okay.
A lot of negative space, I guess.
So I shoot a lot in I only shoot in studios, at least for my artwork, because I love to be in control of the lighting.
Excuse me.
You're good.
Because I love to be in control of the lighting. So I shoot in studios, and where me and Lena come to play. So the general process is I start off with a concept. As mentioned before, I'm very heavily influenced by the Renaissance, and I'm kind of to recreate the story of the Renaissance, and a lot of famous artists from that era really inspire me. And for me, it's kind of a test to, to how can you reflect this in today's society. So, I've taken a lot from the creation of Adam, from the Last Supper, as you'll see in my works. I've taken a lot of inspiration of that.
Do you have an admiration for the artists of that time and like how
Yes.
they broke ground?
So for me, I love when I'm behind my computer, when I'm really, I constantly work on stuff. I'm constantly editing, constantly touching up. And while I do that, I watch a lot of documentaries.
Yeah.
I'm constantly schooling myself on who are the masters, what were they into, like how did things change, so I'm constantly doing research
That's the
on
awesome
artists.
thing about documentaries and podcasts and
YouTube
things
is
like
amazing,
that. Yeah,
man.
you can
It's
listen
amazing.
to it, kill two birds with one stone. So you do find yourself continually intaking different info and
Constantly.
styles constantly.
I get inspired, and I really like Instagram. I think, like, as I've grown as an artist, we live in Miami. There are a lot of photographers out there that do a lot of beach photography, beautiful women, same poses, and, it's great, they do them, but, I don't like, it's saturated, it's like,
We're
I'm
doing something
constantly
different.
trying to do something different, and I get a lot of inspiration from Instagram. It just, as I'm growing in the arts, it's just bugging me more and more, like when I see the 1,000 like posts like that, and I think it's I don't want to be judgmental or anything, but it's the fact that it bothers me, I think is a good thing, because I'm really trying to, I do not want to be affiliated, like
You're not
even
a
as
Miami
even as a
photographer.
photographer, like I'm an artist, like for me, and I tell all my models this, and that's why I appreciate Lena, because she believes in the work. She was the first person that believes in the work, and I think as an artist, you need that first person. Obviously, you need to believe in it first and foremost. But if you have that person that sees the vision, or that maybe they don't see the vision fully, but they trust in the vision, I think that's where me and Lena work well together, because she believes in it, and she makes my vision a reality. And while some other people might think like, what the fuck I don't get this, right? Like she's willing, to take my hand and to run with me with it. So that's
so she
really
helps a
important for me.
lot in the you feel like her creative side and her contribution to this project is important. You don't think you could just grab another muse or something, right? You guys actually create together.
I like to think it's kind of like a package deal when it comes to this project. Giano is obviously an artist, like he said, and he shoots various photos. He does all kinds of photo shoots with, different types of artists and creatives and things, but none are this. Like, this is kind of like our exclusive project.
Is
He
it
couldn't
a
replicate
red
this.
series? Is it all?
We
red?
have many red series, but we've done body painting where that's become its own series. We've done some editing where it's called like Interstellar Thoughts. We have a series called Golden Spring. We've done blue lighting. We've done a variety of things. So this was the first shot that Giano saw, and this is Air Lisa, and that was where the vision began. This was part of the first edits that he sent me, and over time our work has evolved. Where if you look at our conversations, it's constantly sending videos and photos like, this would be a great concept, or look at check this out, like, wow, like it's amazing that they're doing this, like let's keep pushing it, like let's keep trying something new. And even as I've seen him grow as an artist, where we'll come into the photo shoots of both of us and we'll be more organized, like, okay, today we have this sketch, we want to kind of do this, and we'll talk about it a little bit beforehand, and we'll say this is what we want to focus on, or hey Giano, like there's this new like topic that's come up that I'm really passionate about, and it pushes me, because at first I think I saw myself as helping Giano's vision come alive. Like that was the first thing that I would say. I said like I am so honored and humbled to make somebody's dream a reality. Like wow. And that's why I choose muse over model. I don't know how to model, but I believe I know how to inspire and how to motivate and like he said, believe in. So we started that way, and then over time, as I realized like, hey, here's somebody who saw me before I saw myself. And I was like, wow, I have a valid voice. I can be a creative. I don't have to be a quote unquote authority in this space to make something amazing happen. So then I started sending Giano my own ideas and my own concepts, and I'd say like, hey, this is an idea that I have. And through that was how I developed my voice, and how I contribute to this project, and how I've been able to create other projects and see myself as an artist.
Awesome.
So like I sent Giano like a mood board, and like a mood board and almost like a proposal where I was connecting him with a graphic designer called Kovo, who's Miami based, and she does phenomenal work. And I want to work with her. She has this Axe the Pink's Tax movement that she's involved in, and I want to springboard that with her. And I always, whenever I pick up a new project, I ask myself like, how can Giano fit into this space, or how can the other creatives that I've come in contact with, how can we do this together? I've never imagined myself as a solo artist. I don't think that's art for me.
Yeah, a lot of growth.
Right, it's growth, it's community.
Yeah, and to piggyback off of that, what Lena said, I think, since you mentioned a lot of artists are watching, you can't do it alone. Like, you have a vision, and you need to bring it to life. And, I was introduced to Lena, and, that coming all back to that one picture that really set it all off. I knew I needed someone, because basically that first image showed me that it was art, and Lena was part of the art, and it struck me as in, I need to work with this girl. We need to continue this. If you see it like this, if you found a little pebble of gold, aren't you gonna dig for more? And that's what I wanted to do. So I reached out to Lena, and I think you need to surround you with people that believe in you and people that you think are good at something. And she was good at it. She, looking at Lena now and in images, if you look at all my work that is art, that I push out as art, it's her, but she changes in every single image. I got her on board. I remember the phone call. I called her. I explained to her, I was so excited. I just picked up the phone and I'm like, fuck it. I need to tell this girl, my vision. Yeah, I just needed to tell her, and I was really sincere because it really came from the heart. It was just something I felt I needed to do. And, we came to a deal where...
And that's the first time you've done something like that?
Yeah,
yourself?
It's the first time I've called somebody and I've told somebody let's do this.
Yeah.
Let's run. Those were exactly the words. Let's run with this. And every piece that I sell, she gets a cut from it too, because she is, the first image that inspired me is called Air Lisa, and Lisa as in the Mona Lisa. Because she is my muse. She is, in a way, my canvas that I build a world around, and I tell stories with. And as an artist, you need to see that, all the great masters, and if you look back, had that touch of inspiration, had that woman in their lives that was the inspiration. So in a sense, to put it all in one sentence, Lena is, in a way, my Mona Lisa that I've continued to produce great work with, and that I will continue to do so with. If you're doing something good, just throw yourself at it and just continue it and expand on it. And that's one of the tips I would give to any artist that is out there. Great works have not been done by the artists themselves. There's been somebody that's backed you up financially, or somebody that you've collaborated with. Being in the art market, I've seen a lot of great works that have really won awards, and that have sold for high prices. it's usually a duo of artists that work together on something, like Cows and who else? Picasso, the whole Cubism that he started with was a collaboration. Andy Warhol started also as a collaboration, working with another artist. So, I think that's critical in really growing your art, having that pillar in the mix.
And for anyone listening too who is starting their creative journey, artists are very supportive also. I mean, of course you might run across a situation where it just doesn't make sense, but it's not a personal thing. But when it comes to artists, kind of supporting artists, you'd be surprised at who will, reach out back to you and work with you. So I recommend apprenticeships and just reaching out and seeing how you can help other people, and that's a great way to network. Is there a name to this series that you guys have created, or type of? Is there different sets?
So right now, if you go on my website, it's called daredream.co. That's where I basically showcase all my collections and work I've done.
And we'll put all the links in the description to your guys' Instagram, the website.
Definitely, but my website has basically most of the collections. Some I'm still keeping under wraps till I fully printed it and I'm ready to show it. But anywhere from Interstellar Thoughts, which is one where it's where the mind connects with the cosmos.
We have the book, don't we?
But I don't have all of them in the book. There is Golden Spring, which name was inspired by the Arab Spring. There is Bio Expressions, where I use the body to kind of, mind fuck you in a way where you don't.
So they're not all with this color scheme, or they all
vary.
are?
They vary. Like
okay.
I'm
we don't limit ourselves.
You will never be able to pinpoint where I'm at or what I'm about to post. And it might seem a little bit. I experiment a lot, and the moment I get a thought in my head, I'm gonna run with it. But red is, if you look at my Instagram as well, I have various different collections of red, but red is the core, and the reason why red is so important to me right now is because you can slice anyone up. Despite their background, despite their ethnicity, despite where they come from, we will all bleed a red fluid, which is blood, and that makes us all the same. So for me, red is not only a powerful color that really jumps out at you, but I believe it's a unifying color as well that that unites us all.
And I like how you said now, because you are
growing
very
and evolving.
young in your career. You're 28, so who knows what other journeys or paths will come. So that's cool.
Yeah.
Talking earlier with how important it is to have a support system and that community of artists. One of the best advice that I could give to an artist, model, muse, photographer, artist in any capacity, is this idea of value, right? Valuing yourself. I remember when I first got that phone call from Giano. And it was him making me this offer, right? whatever. And I had no idea what was coming, but he made this offer, and I was comfortable with it, but I countered the offer.
Yeah.
I did. I countered the offer for the sake of value. And Giano and I talk about things openly because we're not starving artists, but we definitely, any project that's a startup or that's growth definitely has to grow up to a certain level of finances and things like this. So when we talk about these things, Giano invested a lot of his time and his money into producing this work. I don't contribute to that. What I do contribute is my time and my energy. So that has to be valued. And some days I don't get paid for the photo shoots anymore. But there will be certain things where I'll say this is the way that I want my work to be valued today. I'll make a percentage of what we sell, but there's still a lot that goes on behind the scenes before we get to the point of sale that if we're not having this exchange of value, whatever that may mean, whether it's a time or a connection or promoting each other, supporting each other, whatever that means, right? Like it doesn't have to be, it's not tender, it's not cash, this is not value. Valuing myself enough to say I have worth, I am worthy of whatever I'm dedicating myself to, that being worth it. And we shouldn't be afraid to value ourselves. Be fearless in your pursuit of what you love. That's something that I remind myself of every day. We have to be fearless in the pursuit of what we love. And we shouldn't be disrespectful. I'm not just going to say, well, that's not enough, give me this. No, it's not like this. It's, well, hey, this is what I'm bringing to the table. This is what you're bringing to the table. Let's find something that makes us both feel more than comfortable. Let's make something happen where we're valued, where we feel respected as artists, as creators. And that's the relationship that we carry.
It's interesting you say that an artist, I would say, focusing on calligraphy on Instagram. His name is James Lewis, and he's from England, and he makes like really badass 3D like calligraphy type perfect letters for logos and businesses. And his time lapses are really badass. He'll like layer with tape and then like some powder stuff, come back with cardboard, like airbrush, acrylic pens. Like he makes it like just pop really badass. So he started a campaign. It's hashtag Our Time Has Value. I'll play it at the end of this podcast too. I'll run it there. And so it's cool. The campaign is any creative person that uses the hashtag Our Time Has Value in their medium. So like if you took a photo with the hashtag, or if I drew it, he'll like upload it on his like network, and then he'll send you stickers, which are hashtag Our Time Has Value.
Amazing.
So he's trying to create the awareness and like the global, concept that artists not only sacrifice other ways to produce income. There's a lot of creative time and things that have to develop, and energy and sacrifice that isn't going into necessarily the work. It's going to the art store, it's messing up using certain mediums, it's spending 2 hours editing and then you forgot to save it and that shit got deleted and you're like fuck, and then you have to rebuild all the energy to go back to that same project. All of these things is what makes an artist like a really badass artist. So his message is cool. He made a commercial. I'll show it to you guys. But yeah, it kind of goes with what you're saying, is that artist time is valuable. And, I don't think every artist is just saying, hey, give me 10 G's for this little sketch. Obviously, there comes a point of balance and not being greedy and also not undervaluing yourself. But it's definitely a journey each artist has to take. It's valuing yourself.
It's part of both of ours. We both quit our day jobs. I remember the day that I used to work in the staffing agency, like that business, staffing industry. And I had a corporate job, salary, health insurance, 60-hour weeks, etc. And I talked actually with Giano before I made that like final decision. I was like, this is really what's on my mind. I wanna put my time into something that I love. And he'd already quit his 9 to 5. But for me, it was still something like it supported my lifestyle, it was steady income, etc. And I said, but oh man, I'm just stressed and I don't feel happy doing this. And I said, I want to spend my time doing something that I love. So I came into the office one day and I said, even if you guys pay me more, it's not enough. Because actually what you're paying me to do something I hate doesn't make any sense to me.
You came in with that announcement?
I did, actually, I did.
Hey everybody!
Pay me more! No, I don't care!
That's kind of how it happened. But I gave 30 days. I don't like to burn bridges, and I like to be grateful for whatever has helped me. So I gave 30 days notice.
Burning bridges at times can be appropriate.
Even though it can be, right? Sometimes they light the way, they say that. So that was it. And the day that my last day at the office was a surprise last day. I didn't know that I was going to be let go of before my announced time. But, I guess that's what happens when you make those kind of announcements. But I remember thinking wow, part of what I practice is being fearless. And I'd actually that morning got an amazing message. It was from Charles, from Something Else magazine. And he reached out to me and he said, I've spoken to Giano Currie and I see that you're his muse and that you guys work together. And I'd love to do a story about you guys. And I was like, wow. And we had
a magazine?
For a magazine. It's a magazine in Brazil. It's called We Are Something Else. magazine. They have an Instagram. It's something else. It's something else magazine on Instagram, and they'll do a print series in July that Giano and I will be featured in. We'll have I believe it's like an 8-page story pretty much between the visual essay and an interview that we curated together. And I got that message, and I walked up the wrong escalator. Like, I was trying to go up the escalator that was going down. It was a disaster, but I was so happy to get that message. And we'd had a planned trip to New York, and I was supposed to get to New York later because of work, and I was trying to accommodate this job that I hated. And they let me go early, and I called the flight, and I said, hey, I got to get there earlier. Like, what are we going to do to make this happen? And we made it happen, and we went to I got to New York. Giano and I ended up getting there the same day. And New York was our first out-of-state show. That was very recent. And that's been part of our growth process. That's been part of living this dream and just deciding, like, this is what we're worth. Like, let's just go and show our work and see what happens. And we sold at New York. That was our first.
Yeah. So you want to talk a little bit about how 2017, 2018 have been going, where and where you've had some shows, maybe some shows coming up, where people can buy your work, see you, meet you. That camera should show like that too, if you want to like hold it up if you're talking about it.
Okay, cool. Just because we were talking about jobs, I wanted to put something in there. Before I found my purpose, because it's about purpose. It's about finding something you are content with for doing the rest of your life. Like, can you get up every morning for the rest of your life until you die and commit to this? And before I got to that point, I felt stuck. And I believe that happens with a lot of artists. You get stuck, you're not feeling what you're doing. Lena had
you question if it's all a mistake.
You question if
you
your
question
fucking
everything.
life, what you're doing is a mistake. So,
or is this even cool?
Doesn't even matter.
And you feel it in your body.
Yeah,
you
you
feel
do.
it, like you feel that your happiness is just at a 6 or a 5, and that happens. Sometimes you gotta be lost to be found, and I was lost for a while. And I couldn't pinpoint what that was, because I had a job.
This is while you were working.
This is while I was working.
Pursuing the creative side.
The creative side. I didn't know I wanted to be an artist yet. And, at one point, like, the best advice I would give and the best decision I made is to move. Put yourself in a different environment. Like, I moved. I quit my job. I put myself in more of an environment where... a younger environment, like an environment where I could go outside and go to the park and run and take in fresh air and get inspired. Like, I think your environment is critical, for you to find yourself and to be happy. And I did that. And after that, it all started to fall in place. But as an artist,
so that
if you're not
tipping point point where you jump in.
I jumped.
You challenge yourself.
And you don't know where you're going to land and fall. But, like, if you are feeling down or if you're lost, but trust me, like, to find yourself, you need to put yourself in a different environment.
We grow in uncomfortable spaces.
Yeah, and if you need help, if you need to talk with somebody, that's okay too. Like, I had a life coach that taught me one important thing. If you're lost, if you're not know what you're supposed to do, a personal inventory. Look at the things you've done and that you're proud of, and write them all down. And from that list, you take 7 of the things that you've done in that list that you're proud of, the skills that you have, and take 7 of those skills. And for the next 2 weeks, become every day of the week, become one of those 7 skills. And do that for 2 weeks. Just wake up, tell yourself, yo, I'm a motherfucking artist today. Like, just tell yourself, and the next day, yo, I'm a motherfucking salesperson. I'm gonna sell my art. And do that for 2 weeks, and I fucking promise you, you will find what you are good at. And like, I've done that, and ever since then, I've quit my job. I've fully committed myself to being creative, and that's when but you gotta, the most important thing is to make yourself happy. Like, that's the most important thing. And if you need to change things in your life, it's hard to change. It was really hard for me to quit my job because I was really unsure if that was the right decision. but it is like it's one of the best decisions I've ever made, and I'm still riding that wave. You know, like I'm still exploring that. But to come back to the art, so that's just one tip I wanted to say.
Yeah, and that's one thing that is coming up on these podcasts is kind of each creative person's journey from committing to their art, because that's one of the biggest obstacles is taking time you're investing into one place to make ends meet, and then investing that into your creative side, not knowing how you're going to get your cash flow to live. So I've had a great time listening to different artists and how they've done that. And we just did a podcast with our last episode with Mark Diamond. That's his name, right? Mark Diamond. And he's a holographic artist, and he has his studio here. And you can tell that he's been doing what he's been doing literally his whole life for like 50 years or 60 years, however old he is. I don't want to throw some numbers out there.
20 years.
But you go into his workplace, his studio, and you see pictures of him with different influential, famous people, but he's always having his like camera, or he's giving them his print, or
representing himself.
Yeah, you can tell his whole life has been dedicated to his journey of his art. And if he maybe didn't take a correct turn one way to like get there, who knows, he could have worked for a corporate company for 40 years, never pursued what he was doing. I mean, there's only like 2,000 like registered holographic artists in the world.
Wow.
Which, if you break it down to the amount of people, it's like 0.0000001%, which is pretty wild because there's so many creative people. So it's a very, very small niche. But it's interesting listening to different people and how they've left like their past life to pursue their creative life. And so that's one of the awesome things about the podcast, is that people who are also on that journey themselves, they can sit there and listen to 15 episodes and hear in each episode how that artist did that. So that's a cool thing that you both, talked about that. And yeah, cool.
And it's okay. Like, it's okay to be lost. It's okay to sit on the couch for like 3 years and not do shit. Like, you sometimes need to do a lot of nothing to do a lot.
Yeah.
So like it's okay. Everyone goes through it.
So you're doing a lot right now.
I'm doing a lot.
You got a lot of shows. You are in Art Basel. You've been traveling. You're gonna continue traveling.
Yes.
You have a great body of work. So yeah, you wanna run through some of those things?
So let me run through it. So this is one of the pieces. Like currently, like right now, it's on reflective paper. But this is basically my take on the modern Renaissance. I call this piece the creation of Eve, because I believe we live in a time of women. It's a time of her. You can see it on the news, you can hear it on the radio. It's just a very special time for women. And I say women because, a lot of my works are dedicated to, femininity,
Empowerment.
to female empowerment. And a big part of that comes from the women in my life. My dad has been a great supporter and like a powerhouse of motivation, and I get my spirituality from him. But I was raised by two strong women. Like my best friend is my sister. Like, by the way, guys, like always have that woman friend that gives you like womanly advice, because we don't get it.
It's valuable.
She is my go-to when I need advice with it's when some bullshit is going down. So but yeah, my sister is my best friend. My mom has been a tremendous passion and inspiration behind me. Like, she's always pushed me to be creative. She's
awesome, by the
always
way.
told me.
I got to meet her.
She's always told me to go to art school. She's always told me to follow my dreams and my passion, and she's always believed in me. And for instance, like my mom used to be a radio
Host?
a radio DJ host. So like my music, my vibe, just my vibes in music, and music is a very important part of my behind my art too. I get from her. So definitely women. This is called The Creation of Eve. And this is a big project I did with Lina.
So this is Lena on the left?
Yeah,
Both.
this is
both?
Everyone in that photo is me.
Oh, wow. All of them.
Yeah.
So
I love it.
And we're gonna print this out in a very
Hold that up though for a second again to touch on that. To just kind of I guess showcase how much Giano really I guess believes in empowering women and this like feminine energy. This shoot was supposed to be originally done in just red, and during setup, he'll constantly ask for my input, and which means a lot to me. When we're in the studio space, I don't find that either one of us has ego. It's something that's very important for us as artists. We remove ego. Like, we check that at the door and we just kind of come in to create visions and really make some awesome stuff happen.
Yeah, with the artists, like the ego,
You
it's
can't.
there.
It's there, but
And
it can't
some
be
artists
there.
can check it out, and then some other artists can't check it
No,
out.
we have to check it out.
But
and he
all
did that
the
day.
creatives, they got that little ego.
You have to.
floating
It's
around.
called the Red Dragon.
It's part of
Calm
it's
down,
part of
bro.
being a creative, because it's a self-esteem thing, right? Like, we're so bashed as artists, like, oh, you're starving artists and not making enough money and this, that, and the other, where sometimes as artists we have low self-esteem because of the lack of work that's going on. So that's where that really comes from. That's where the ego like kind of comes out.
But be
that,
proud about ego though.
Yeah.
Be proud of what you do.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
That
This
is,
different. This is
talk
different than
about
ego.
it. Tell people about it. Like, you know, in school we get taught that, oh, like, you know, don't talk too much about yourself. But
No, you have to.
if you're doing something you love, I mean, have people notice that.
Like,
don't
speak powerfully, not
don't
just
be
for the
afraid.
pride.
Yeah. So that was my little.
But in this piece, that really light hint of blue
Mhm.
that's on the hands and just like in that particular part of the shot, Giano said, like, what do you think? Like, should we just do red or should we try blue? I said, I think there just needs to be like a dab of blue. Not all blue, not all, just a dab of blue. And that's where that came from. Like, that's how
And
that
that's
was
in
created.
and that's like in post, right? That,
No,
that's
this
like
is-
oh wow. So you're taking a picture, you're both looking at it.
So these colors.
I don't want to have you give away any secrets
No,
or anything either.
No
So
secrets. But one thing about all my pieces, especially in red, especially in blue,
That's natural.
I do not mess with the color. So the color you see on her skin is the actual color how the picture was taken. Like, I use a lot of red and you know, sometimes blue highlights. Red is more stronger in my work right now, but this is actually the color and the shades. That's all, you know, the color as taken.
More importantly for me with the editing, I've always really respected the way Giano does his editing, and it's kind of like this silent agreement. Giano actually doesn't edit my body. Like, my body does not really get touched in the editing. Like,
raw.
if you smooth my skin out, these kinds of things, sure. Like, to make certain things happen, yes, sure. Like, maybe you have to readjust. But my body, that's actually what I look like. He doesn't make it look like,
That's beautiful.
He doesn't embellish anything.
So how does that
So-
sparkle like that? That shit is glowing.
So this is called Vitruvian Woman. I don't know if you've seen
Of the male
the Vitruvian Man.
by Leonardo da Vinci.
Exactly, and I wanted to reflect on that same concept in today's world, but I wanted to give it a modern twist. So, you know, in the Vitruvian Man, you can clearly see, I think it's like 6 poses. But in today's society, we have so much more shit to think about, to love, to worry about. There's so much more going on in our day-to-day lives right now. It's a lot easier. I mean, you know, like, we have toilets and toilet paper nowadays, but
Technology.
But even the colors that we're perceiving.
Exactly.
There's colors that you couldn't even see back then. Different
I
highlight
very
colors.
much agree,
and-
man.
Like, if you just walk in Wynwood, your mind is gonna get a mind fuck that didn't
Yeah,
exist back
RGB
then.
colors and, like,
It's
you know,
wild.
CMYK. So
Our sensory experience has completely changed.
Yeah.
it's that's why I say
Eat
it's,
some mushrooms and then boom.
you know, and that's why, like, it's a beautiful time to be alive, you know, and this is a take on beauty and chaos, you know, like
I see a smile.
you see smile, you see a stare, you see a sleep, you see somebody that's woke, You know, and you see the fetus position, which is the centerpiece if you really look deep.
Of like beginning or...
And I believe there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Is there 6 to 7? I believe it's 7 figures in one piece. And this is me just... If you're ever stuck as an artist, if you don't feel it, if you sit behind your computer or your canvas long enough, and I'm talking hours or days, and stare at something long enough, you will find something. And like, I strongly believe in this. I've spent countless of hours just, you know, like figuring shit out and just experimenting. But as an artist, if you stare at something long enough and work on something long enough, you will find beauty in it. And you know that, and this is, you know, this is called the Vitruvian Flame. It's called Vitruvian Woman collection, but this specifically is the flame, the Vitruvian Woman flame. You know, and
yeah, I love it.
And this is one of my pieces.
And this
that
is
just
on
works.
paper?
No, like, so these are just portfolio, like this is basically to show people with a little size and scale and reflection. But all my pieces are printed on metal.
Yes.
Aluminum.
So could you hold this one up for a second?
Yeah, sure.
And so I'm an artist. My dad is an artist, and we are also. I would like to say.
This is the material that has been
visual.
printed on.
Yeah. So how does someone? Obviously, you can go to websites, Fine Art America, different websites, and print on. What is that?
This is metal.
Metal.
This is metal print. I use a printing company based out of Miami, but a lot of people, a lot of companies, if you do a little bit research, you know, you can basically print your photography on anything. And if you're dabbling into photography, especially, you know, I started right off the bat, big scale print on metal. Like, I'm like, this needs to be big. I just can't, like, she needs to be life size. It needs to be big.
Give or take, like, ballpark for someone listening who's interested in printing on, like, what would one, like, that size ballpark? I mean, obviously, you probably have a good relationship with the people who help you, but is it pricey for someone?
It is pricey, but I would say start off small. You know, like, I took the time because I believed in it so much, and, like, I just jumped into it, man. Like, you know, I had some money saved up. I'm like, fuck this. I'm just gonna, you know, it needs to be skill. Like, stay true to what you want. Never
sell yourself short.
Never commit. Yeah, never
settling.
Never do something that isn't, you know, like, especially as an artist, like, people are gonna tell you, oh, change this, change that, and you need to listen. And if it works for you, change it. But stay true to what you believe in and what you think is art, because not everyone will believe. In the beginning, people will not believe your shit. Like, I still have some friends of mine that I tell them what I'm doing, and they get this, like, there's just this look that they give you of like, you know, all right, like, you know, like, they don't get it. They just don't get it. Like, they don't get what you're doing, why you're doing it, but just fucking bite through it, and like, they'll see, like, you know, it's for you're doing it for you. Like, obviously you always want validation, but in the beginning it's not gonna be there, and you're gonna not only get those looks, you're gonna get that feeling, and that sometimes hurt, but turn that hurt into proving them wrong and proving yourself right, you know. But coming back to it, if you're in photography, print it out. It'll make a world of difference.
Like, print it out, hang it up. Is that what you
print
mean?
it out, hang
look
it
up,
up, frame it in, look it up,
get it off the computer.
Paint over it, put it in a glass box, but like, make it something somebody can touch. Because as much as I love Instagram and social media, it does not do my work justice. My work has been made to be printed on metal.
Stand in front of
it, to see a part of your reflection in it, and to just experience it, because that's what art is. Some art is digital. You know, I'm all for moving arts, videography, you know, but print it out.
Other than marketing yourselves on social media and the internet and getting yourselves out there, what other ways do you get in contact with galleries and
Networking.
shows, and so you would say like networking with people, just
I mean,
meeting
yeah.
people.
Like I make it a point to, like I schedule in my calendar different networking events per month. Like I'd say 3 per month, and different ones. Like we live in Miami, so there's so many like free events that go on. And like if like again, if you're balling on a budget, you can attend these free events, and you can network with these different kinds of artists. There's a company that Giano and I went to one of their events. Giano and I went to one of their events, I guess maybe 2 months ago. In Good Company hosts a monthly panel event at Art Africa. It's a gallery owned by Neil Hall, he's an architect, here in Overtown. And we went to that event, and how phenomenal was that panel? Like it was so informative. It was, the topic was I'm creative and I'm broke. So they had a panel of almost, I guess it was like 7 people. And it went from the very capitalistic structure of making money to a woman who doesn't believe in money at all, but has a wonderful life and more than survives and believes in her art and believes in like social currency and different things like this, like all the extremes and everything in between.
Social currency. Nice.
It's very important, right? As artists, like we said, we have community. So how can I help you help me? How can vice versa? You know, like Giano and I are
bartering.
It's bartering. We're constantly talking about like, hey, we want to get this done, and he'll be like, yeah, you know, maybe I can do something for them, or they can do something for me, and I'll do for them, and this is just the network of how it goes. So the networking is huge. Like Giano said, with our art, it's very important that you can touch it and that it be tangible. An email is great, and people can read your words and they can look at your pic deck. But what, at least in my experience, for us, what really sells our art is us. Nothing represents our artwork better than us and our energy. So even at shows, like we have a show coming up in New York that I don't think either one of us is going to be able to be there at, but Giano has a good relationship with the gallerist, sends an artist statement, like really makes sure that there's some sort of personal touch of us being representing at the art at these shows. Giano always goes to the show. If I can make it to a show, I go to a show. We have to be there. We have to represent the work. We have to provide that personal experience. Because if not, then why are we making art? You know, like when you purchase a piece of art, when you even stand in front of art, you are receiving a piece of this artist. And it's really important for me and really for Giano as well that we stay true to that nature.
Yeah, networking and meeting people, it is incredible how it works.
You have to feel.
But yeah, you have to bring genuine, like charismatic value to your relationship. You know, like I can't just infiltrate your guys's like network and community if I'm not actually I can't just come to the Miami ad school when I want, just walk around, film content. No, I can't do that. I have to do that because I'm doing a podcast with you guys. Right? Now I'm going to meet more artists. You guys get a little marketing, whatever. It's beneficial to both parties. Absolutely. So I think you also have to like nourish those friendships, but
you have to cultivate them.
Yeah. And that is really important. So if you do some of that with very good online presence,
right,
then you can kind of put those two together and have a good takeoff.
For example, like me, like Giano has way more followers on Instagram than I do, but I look at my follow count and I learn to ignore the number, because as I've grown doing this artwork and just becoming more authentic in what I post, like I said, I was a writer first, so I typically post with a story or a poem or my thoughts even. Like I almost use it as like a live journal, but it's really authentic. It comes from the heart. I get really quality follows. Like I started getting follows from international accounts, people with 40K, 100K, like all kinds of accounts that are real. Like these are real artists and different things like this. And it's all because I started to meet and network in person. Awesome. With the right artists, and then I would follow up by supporting them online. So then I use my story to promote like the causes that I believe in, to promote the companies I believe in. Like Team Poets, for example, is a place that I go to all the time. It's like my cooperative workspace, except they don't charge me to sit and use their Wi-Fi. But I buy their tea for $4 while I'm there, and they are really big in Miami. It's big. But they're really big on supporting the art community, and there I have met some really great artists, or entrepreneurs, business people, different people that offer me just opportunities to make passive income, to grow as an artist, and that's the thing that makes a difference.
And how do you network?
Yeah, so I I give advice, or like I'd rather like talk about like how it's worked for me, and the important people that have. I'm gonna tell you where it all started. So we do this photography thing. We make beautiful pictures that are only digitally available. So now I'm like, okay, I need to print out more, and you need to be open. That's why I mentioned earlier, you need to talk about what you're doing and what you're interested in, because if you don't say what it is you love and do, people will never know. Like, you really need to put yourself out there and talk about it. And every person has this one person, it's not your best friend, it's an acquaintance, but you guys just have a relationship that's just, it's mutually beneficial. Like, they're not your best friend, but it's always somebody, for some reason, you can rely on, and you're on that same wavelength. It's just people you
connect with.
Yeah, people that you've connected with, but that are always there, and you have a mutual benefit to each other. So one day I was here at school, I'm talking, and I'm telling this girl that I was working on a project with, like, hey, I really want to get into galleries, like, I'm really trying to push my art. And she's like, I have this lady that's a gallerist. I'll send her your contact. So she shoots me over the email. I call this lady up one day, and I'm like, hey, I'm an artist. Like, I have some works I would like to show you. And this lady's like, all right, like, we have a show coming up. Boom, 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 boom.
At this point, you really don't have your work
I'm
out
not
there?
in a gallery.
Okay, so this is kind of the first,
This was the first.
This is baby steps.
Okay.
So, like, and this lady tells me what I'm supposed to do. I send her my work. She's like, I want this one. Boom, you're in the show. Boom, won first place in photography. And
wow! And you won first place.
And that's where it's all started. And
then from there, you also.
Yeah, that's where it all
Well,
like.
we're going to New York with her now.
That's where it all started, and this all came from telling somebody what I wanted. Expressing my love for something and one of my goals. And this is somebody I will always respect her for the rest of my life. Like, I met her the other day in New York when I was in New York, and like I fucking hugged her, because like she was that one person that changed her life. Like, there's always gonna be one person that's gonna pull you up.
And if she would have said no,
if she would have been
you have to keep hunting and keep fighting.
Initially she didn't send me the email right away, and I'm like, hey, what's up with the email? What's up with the number? And she sent it to me. Like, you really need to
Persistent guy.
And one of the things that I've done ever since is I'm constantly either editing my work or doing a shoot, or reaching out to people, sending people my decks, sending galleries my decks, and you're gonna get a shitload of rejection. Like, I've gone to a couple of galleries in New York that basically make you feel like shit, because they're like, the moment they give you that card with that info at card, with that info at email, you already know, like, they're not even gonna watch your shit. Or when you need to submit something online, when you can put a request and you put your email and you send a message, 80% you're not going to get a response back.
Which is normal. So anyone listening, if you are facing this rejection right now, just keep fighting.
Yeah, and the continued part after the talking about the people you put around you, so after I got into that gallery, there was a Sunday where we had a Sunday brunch where the artists would kind of, tell their story, and that's at that brunch, that's when I knew, I was in the right circle. I was surrounded by my tribe, because at one point we were sitting in a circle and it was all different artists basically pouring out their heart and soul, why they were doing what they were doing, and the backstories to it. Like, when you purchase,
it's powerful stuff.
It's powerful stuff. It's motivating stuff. It's like a whole new world opened up to me. And it's when you purchase one of my pieces, you purchase a part of me. Like, you purchase a part of me, because every single piece of mine has a backstory to it. Like every single piece. So the biggest and best thing, like, I would advise is to connect with other artists that are in the same they don't have to be in the same like technique as you. Like, you know, like I know a lot of painters and a lot of other photographers, but surround yourself by those people, because it's those people that you meet at art fairs and artists and curators that are gonna reference you to other galleries. The whole reason why I'm in other galleries and I've gone to show my work is because of the artists I've met and the curators I've met. You know, and putting yourself in that environment, getting to know those people, that's key to really growing yourself as an artist. Just the last week, I showcased my piece. 2 of my pieces are up till August in a section of a building where, you know, just by a conversation with a really good mentor friend of mine, you know, I was telling him, like, you know, I'm looking for opportunities, and I was helping him out with a photo shoot for his work, and he's like, hold up, let me call somebody for you. And that same day, I got 2 of my fucking pieces in for a show that's going on till August, that's been curated by one of the best curators in Miami.
Is that what we're gonna go check out?
One fucking day, yeah.
Cool.
That's what we're gonna go check out. So like, have mentors that artists, ask questions, like the first thing I ask other artists is like, what advice do you have for a young up and coming artist? The first thing, and the thing they tell me the most is keep at it. Just fucking keep doing what you're doing. Just produce as much as you can in a limited amount of time. Never fucking stop. Like, just keep at it. Keep doing it. Build your inventory. You know, that is the biggest advice I've received from countless of artists. You know, never stop. Don't stop. Don't sleep. Sleep when you die. Fucking, like, you know, die for it.
Yeah, well, I think we covered a lot of valuable things. We got to know the both of you. I think it would be pretty awesome if next time you guys have a photo shoot, one of these times coming up, if you wanted to also invite us, we could do a few little live angles and then maybe vlog about it. We could produce like a little 10-15 minute vlog of just kind of showing you guys in action. We'd like to do that. And then another thing, for everyone listening, what we're going to do with the podcast is with each episode, we're going to include also a 10-minute vlog, which is going to go along with the podcast, which will kind of be cool, like behind the scenes, like the setup, pre-podcast conversation. That'll go along with the podcast. And then we're also going to do a tutorial. So we want to reach out to everyone we're doing the podcast with and see if we could set up a little 5 or 10 step tutorial, like something you feel passionate about, like packaging your work so it doesn't get damaged. And then we just do a little 5-step tutorial.
That's a really good one.
We want to do that, because the podcast is cool because it's documenting things, but say we do a podcast episode every 3 or 4 months, right? And say we also do the 10-minute vlog and then we do a tutorial. If everything goes to plan, in 3-4 years from now, you'll have your own 10 episodes, your own 10 tutorials, and the growth of our podcast on YouTube with the tutorial, it's going to really grow.
Right.
So who knows? One of your tutorials could potentially go viral one day. Which will give you whatever X amount of exposure, but that's the goal with the podcast. So we want to do a vlog with it and a tutorial. So if you guys in the future want to invite us to come shoot some of that content, and then we'd also love to do the episode again in a month or 2 months. Maybe you guys can come out to our studio. It's called the Art House.
Okay.
It's a home I bought in Kendall, where we're working on a few murals. We have a basketball hoop. We have a big open studio space. And so, we like to invite people out there. But, if you guys, do you have any last little things you want to say before we wrap it up?
Yeah. This is a list of things that, you know, throughout my journey, like, I've learned. You want to go first, Lena? Ladies first.
I guess, to wrap it up, stopping is not an option. I said it earlier, but it's really something that I believe in. Be so afraid of being broke that you leave yourself no choice to be successful at what you love. Like that is like, be fearless in that pursuit, man. You have to keep going. I'm not an artist full time, but I am a healer. That's my full time like career. And
She heals my heart.
I'm a hypnotherapist and I practice Reiki. And for me, I had to, and this is the advice, change your perspective. Like, change the lens that you choose to view life in. I could easily say like, oh man, like I have to split myself between two careers, but I don't. Healing is an art, and art is art. So I just say that I'm an artist. I'm an artistic healer is what I go by. And that happened because I decided to change my perspective. I decided I have to keep fighting. There's a lot I have to fight for that we'll get into other episodes. There's a lot I fight for on a daily basis. And that's the thing that keeps me going. Every day I wake up and I remind myself of the things that I love. I begin my day with a grateful heart. That's the biggest advice. Like, I begin my day by reading something that reminds me to be grateful, and I end my day by writing 5 things down that I was grateful for that day. And one of the things that I've learned to write down every day is I am grateful for myself. Like, that's number one. Like, how long will it take you to go down the list of the things you're grateful for and say you? So always be grateful for yourself. Keep fighting, and you get to choose the lens that you see life in. It could be a zoom lens, it could be wide, it could be fisheye, whatever you want. It could be blue, it could be red. Pick the lens and make sure that it's to your benefit, and you will succeed. It's not get rich quick, but you will get there faster.
Cool, thank you for that. Giano?
Yeah, I totally agree with Lena about the gratitude. I have a little gratitude rock that I walk with. And when I go out of my house, I take this with me, and it basically reminds me of how lucky we are. If you're going through some rough shit, like, I think before you leave your house, it's really critical to get your thoughts together and to feel your body weight against the ground. Feel alive, look alive, because if you're breathing and you can do stuff, and it always gets better. What I mentioned before, sometimes you got to do a lot of nothing to have that moment of, fuck this, I'm done with this, and now you're gonna go full force. So something that really helped me out, and it was super random, is when an older friend of mine, like, I was really going through some rough shit, I was lost, and she told me, like, dude, like, everyone's fucking lost. Like, everyone, it's a phase, like, it's a biology, like, it's in our genes that we go through some rough patches in life, not knowing what the fuck we want to do in life. It's normal. Everyone goes through it. So I didn't know that. I thought it was only me. So first and foremost, like, if you're going through some rough shit right now, everyone's been through it, and knowing that everyone's been through it, should give you some ease. And I wanted to mention some things that I've learned along this journey. The first thing is find your commission. Like, I have dedicated myself or commissioned myself to edit a piece of art, an image, every single day. Like, every day I spend 5 to 6 hours working on artwork. Like, it's really hard. Like, sometimes it's really an adrenaline rush because it's 11 p.m. like, and I need a fucking, like, I haven't.
Is that what happened
shit.
Last night?
That's what happened. Yeah, you noticed. Like, I posted exactly.
But you're committing to that.
But I've committed. Like, it's just I wake up with a goal and I go to bed with something. So commission yourself. It will set you free. Find your tribe. Surround yourself with people that are fucking, that are into the same things. Like, put yourself in a room with artists. You'll be amazed of the great feedback you're gonna get. Like, it's gonna grow you as an artist. Find your playground. If you're into street photography, if you're into paintings, put yourself into that environment. Like, I call my studio my playground because I experiment a lot. Experiment with stuff, figure it out. The best shoots come from doing it the first time, fucking up, going back the next day, and really fucking executing it. That's when the best work happens. Be a mechanic. Somebody brings you a car, like, be your own mechanic. Like, if you go to somebody else, they're gonna tell you always your car is wrong, you need to fix this, you need to fix that. But be your own mechanic. Like make sure your own engine is good, because people will give you feedback, but feedback is to take in and to digest, and to figure out if that's the right move for you, you know. So don't take feedback literally. If somebody tells you your shit looks like something you did looks like shit, think about it. But if you think it's beautiful, fucking go for it, man, because it's that same person that's gonna tell you later, oh my god, like it's a beautiful piece. Find good music and good art. A good friend of mine is a philosopher, and when him and I talk, we can talk for hours about a bunch of shit. Like we can literally talk for hours. And he told me something once. At one point, there were philosophers that said, you know what, people are born to die again, you know, and that simply meant that life didn't have a purpose because we're born to die one day. Why? And then there was a younger group of philosophers that said, hold up, no. It's because of music and art that gives life purpose. Could you imagine a world without art or music? Think about music for a second. You know, so those are the things that make us most alive. And obviously you have people that are not into the arts per se, like an accountant or a lawyer. But you need that. You need some happiness in your life. Music and art, it does not make any sense, but it still makes us feel good. So find good music and art if you're having a bad day. We are all lucky. Again, coming back to the gratitude rock. It's a beautiful time to be alive, man. Like, go out there, make beautiful things, like get inspired. It's a beautiful time. It's not, you know, like, it's not worth you sitting in your house all day. Like, you know, go to museums, go to a concert, like put yourself out there at least a little bit that you can get a taste of life. The last thing I want to say, it's a modern renaissance, man. Like, you know, like we don't even know it, but like it's a modern renaissance, you know. Let's be part of that. So those are my final words.
Yeah, well, thanks again to the both of you. Thanks for going
for
out of
having
your
us.
way to get us coffee.
Thanks
Thanks for inviting us to the ad school. I
Of course,
appreciate
man.
it.
Thank you guys.
I know
Really.
Carlos had a good
Thank you.
time. I had a great time. Lots of value in that podcast specifically for anyone listening who's pursuing the same journey. That was the 12th episode, and I'm sure you both have already been mentioning it, but any artists, any type of business owners who maybe it's just a restaurant but they incorporate art into their restaurant,
Yeah.
you know, just anything that we can have a positive feedback information loop. If we also travel, so we'll go like to Homestead, we'll go to Fort Lauderdale, we'll go wherever. And yeah, with that being said, if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure to subscribe. If you liked the video, leave some feedback. If you didn't like it, if you have any input besides the lights going out, besides some audio lineups, you don't have to let us know. I already know about that. And yeah, so thanks again. Have a good weekend, guys, and we'll see you again.
See you next time.
Cool.
Boom.
Thank
Boom.
you.